Hey guys, John Gums, Dakota Grappler, coming live on a Wednesday night. Man, we are starting. It's the 1st of December. Big tournament this week. If you guys have any chance to pay attention to what's happening in Mandan, we have a huge tournament with some of the best teams in both North and South Dakota. And so we're going to have fun. Nate Humann's going to join us in a second. You see who's on the bottom. Everyone's got their names. My name is John Gums. We got Shawn Lewis, and we got Bill Holton tonight. You're going to see Nate pop in, but I tell you what, I'm going to start off right away. We're not even going to start with big introductions, except I'm just going to say I'm ready to go. John Gums, host of Dakota Grappler. Bill?
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. We kind of get a feeling of what's going on in South Dakota with Shawn Lewis, and it's always fun to have Nate on Talk Wrestling, so I'm excited.
Okay, well, awesome. Shawn, you might as well introduce yourself. Nice little short one. I'm getting right into it.
Shawn Lewis, head coach at Pierre for the boys, and always excited to be on the show.
Well, awesome. This is probably what, your third or fourth time on?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's pretty good because I've got a gift for you all when you come to Mandan this week. I've got you something. So you won't have to remind me. I'll have something. You'll be really busy. I'll have a little package for you.
I'll be super busy with our
Dakota Grappler stuff. Well, okay, so let's get right into it. Let's talk first thing. You are coming to North Dakota this week. Tell us your schedule. Do you have a duel tomorrow night and then hop on the bus Friday morning?
No, so we'll hop on the bus Friday morning. It'll be boys and girls get on the bus, and so we'll go up there with the girls wrestling over in Bismarck and the varsity boys wrestling in Mandan, and then we're actually going to leave the other half of our squad still at home, and they're going to practice on Friday, and then our JV squad heads over to Clark for the Clark Willow Lake tournament. So it'll be a lot of wrestling for our entire squad on the weekend.
Well, I tell you what, this is the biggest weekend really in both states, in North and South Dakota, all the opening tournaments. You could go right down the list from Stanley County to Clark. You could go all the way down the eastern side of South Dakota, and they've got tons of tournaments. So we'll talk about those, or I'll get going on later. But now, how many guys are you bringing to Mandan? Did you get any extras in, or when do you find that out?
I don't know when we find that out. I submitted 15 guys, so we'll have our 14 kind of varsity guys, and then I submitted one extra. We're pretty deep at 145 with a bunch of guys, so I submitted one extra guy there. We'll see if we get him in, and then we have the rest of the weight classes filled.
Well, that's awesome. It's awesome. And how many returning state placers do you have coming back?
Oh, returning state placers that'll be in our lineup. Probably 3. We're going to be pretty young. You throw about 4 more state qualifiers on top of that, but ultimately, I mean, we graduated a lot of big boys last year, so we're pretty young all the way through our lineup.
Okay. Well, if you guys don't know this, Pierre last year did win a state championship, but not in the individual. They came through and won the dual championship as a team. How was that last year doing that? Because I tell you what is one of the most exciting duels that night. I tell you what.
So we probably had 3 of the most exciting duels that I've ever been a part of, back to back to back. We came in as the 5 seed, and we had Mitchell right off the bat, and we had been absolutely mollywomped by him the week before. And so our guys were, coming out really wanting a lot of revenge, as that's the way their regular season ended. And, we came back pretty flawless in that duel. And then it was, wrestle Brandon Valley. I mean, they're a huge powerhouse, lots of good kids. And, they
in the semifinals. Yep.
Yeah. They'd beaten us twice throughout the year. And, I'd probably better go on record and say that they were the better team. They just weren't that night. We wrestled about to perfection, and we wrestled a tie for a duel. And so, we go to the head table afterwards to try and figure out tiebreaker criteria, which I knew that we had, but the scores table had it actually inputted in wrong. So it had Brandon Valley winning on like criteria J or something goofy.
Yeah.
And I had to bring the officials over there because there was a unsportsmanlike conduct in one of the matches. And so they had to go back and input that in correctly once we got the okay from the officials. And so we ended up winning that duel. And then, our finals duel, we were down and kind of stormed back. We were, losing by 3 in the final match, losing by 3 on the scoreboard for the team. Going to the third period, we're down by 3. And we cradle a kid up and pin him and walk it off. And it was nuts. The whole place went crazy. I went crazy. I'm not sure what happened for about a half hour.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you guys' format, how did you like how you guys did the format this last year?
So the tough part for us is it just seems like every year we change our format. And so We've done a bunch of goofy things, and I think last year we had pretty much matched, what North Dakota had done. And then we have a whole new format for this year again. So, we really haven't given anything more than 1 year before we're like, hey, let's change it. And a lot of people during the state tournament are trying to change it, and they're getting things. So I just hope we stick with something. I really liked last year's format, but I also see the advantages of this year's format with our individual tournament Thursday, Friday, and then our duels all on Saturday. So I see the benefits of both. It kind of is what it is. We'll just go and wrestle.
Well, here's what happened last year. Now that we've added the girls or women's wrestling, last year was the first time we had the duels just on Saturday. They did the individuals Thursday, Friday, and they stuck with it this year. They actually voted it in, and that's the format they're doing again this year. And it's going to take some adjustment because I tell you what, our Friday nights were phenomenal, having our individual semifinals and then the dual finals in the past. And that was probably the biggest night where you saw everybody pile in to the location, into the Dome in Fargo. And then Saturday was just smooth with all the placing, and you kind of get through and you're done with wrestling on Saturday. Now Saturday's a whole new event. You got to start completely over. So it's going to get something. But the thing I just as the wrestling fan itself, there's a lot of teams that the schools will make them go home on Saturday if they're not in the duel.
Yeah.
The other way around, they have at least an opportunity to watch them. And that's as a fan or somebody that wants to grow this sport in the state, and you start taking some of your wrestlers and not allowing them unless the parents are going to stay. And there's a lot of them where the parents aren't going to be there for that. They're not going to stay because their kid isn't wrestling. So it eliminates a lot of people who would still enjoy that state tournament on Saturday. And I'm hoping some teams, actually the coaches that don't qualify for it, find a way to get their administration to allow their kids to stay, and they can enjoy the whole day and watch the whole day of wrestling. And that's what I hope for. But that's what I see.
I'm pretty hopeful that, there'll be a lot of schools that'll actually call off school on Friday like they do for, volleyball and basketball and even football. I'm hoping that because the semifinals and finals will now be on Friday, that they'll do the right thing and call off school so they can get their friends and their buddies to go watch. And then, the ones that are there can stay for the duels if by chance we're in it. So, I think good will come from it. I like that we're both using the same format, though. That makes things a whole lot better.
Yeah. And how about the location venue? I thought last year running back and forth in Rapid City wasn't too bad between the two gyms, but going back to Sioux Falls this year, the location can handle, it differently. I'm not sure, if they keep it all on the same side, and that. What do you think of the venue, Sioux Falls?
Yeah, I like it when we're together. I like when both classes are together. COVID was that, they had to keep things separate, and then they had to separate the girls as well with everything. So kind of, having it all in one and putting the girls in there, I think that you're going to get nothing but a fantastic crowd. So I can't wait for it to all be back together.
I agree. Rapid City last year, as much as I enjoyed it, I missed a lot of matches that I might have caught because I had to run between places and go from one gym to the other. And so at times I think, it was lost. But what was interesting last year in North Dakota, we had to do the Class A in the morning or the Class B in the morning, and then they were done and they cleared them out of the building. And then we did the Class A in the afternoon, and so they didn't get to see each other. We had like 2 state tournaments that we had to run. It was so bad overall. They even said, coaches couldn't basically stick around. They had sent them all home. And I'll pray that this COVID thing never happens again, because it was a nightmare. And so
we weren't allowed to bounce back and forth in between gyms or anything. If you were in the A, you had to stay in the A gym.
Okay. And
then because in Rapid they had 2 different gyms, and so we went on at the same time. And then same if you were a B, and even kids, like they were making sure that they didn't cross over and go watch, in the other one. So you pretty much were confined to your own gym.
Right. They gave me a certain pass that basically is the media thing. I had to have a different thing on, say I could go to both, because they allowed some media in one place and only one place too. That's correct.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very true. So let's get to Nate. Nate, welcome again. We haven't got to talk to you yet.
Sorry, I'm late.
I tell you what, some of the biggest wrestling fans ever. We'll talk some college too, just a touch. But Nate, give us your outlook here for the Mandan tournament. That's where we started. How many guys did you try to get in? And you'll find out probably tomorrow.
Yeah, kind of in the same boat as Shawn. Just listening to what he was talking about. We have a young team and we should have a full roster. We put in a couple of extras. We put in for 3, hoping to get 3 guys in. But whatever we get in, I guess. We'll have pretty much a full team there. And then we'll send our junior varsity guys over to Jamestown on Saturday, which is a varsity tournament too. So some of those kids, if those extras don't get in, obviously we want them to get in, but they'll still get some varsity competition. And some of those matches could be important later on in the year for seeding at the state tournament, matching up with some of those better East kids. So yeah, looking forward to the weekend. This is our first competition of the year, tomorrow night, I guess. So I think our guys are ready to wrestle someone else than their buddies in the practice room. So looking forward to it. Yeah. Kind of, again, like Shawn said, we have a young team, but I'm excited to see what we can do. We have, I think, 4 returning state placers and a lot of sophomores, juniors. We have one senior on the team, and he hasn't wrestled in quite some time. So, I mean, really, we're kind of full of underclassmen, and should be fun to watch these guys grow. I guess last year they didn't get a ton of matches, obviously, which kind of stinks. They would have had a lot of developing, but it just gets put off until this year. And I think our results before Christmas break, might not be what we'd like them to be, but then, we always gain ground at the end of the year and hopefully start beating some of those kids that you lost to at the beginning of the year when kids start to gain some confidence and stuff. So long-winded answer, but
no, that's great. No, definitely. No. So how are you dealing with team leadership? Are you letting the juniors take control? Or how are you doing that?
Yeah, they've done a nice job. I mean, we're kind of leading them in the right direction, but some kids, their voices are getting louder and louder, this year, and that's great to see. Some guys are taking a leadership role, and I think a big thing in wrestling, you need a couple vocal leaders, but I think more than vocal leaders, you need guys that lead by their actions, and that's really important too. And we got guys in there that can do that too. So, yeah,
you're now getting to become a salty veteran coach.
I guess.
Yeah. How are you handling now? We haven't gotten into this. We'll go back and forth, and I'll let Bill ask a couple questions. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your practice routine. I did notice one thing that you guys have been starting to do is you're posting on the wall your practice plan. I'm not sure if the wrestlers ever go up and look at it. I did notice that.
Yeah, I my first year just being a co-head coach, Coach Lamar and I that worked really well for us. We kind of go back and forth what we needed to work on. And then last year we kind of got away from it to a certain extent. Just, a lot on our plate last year with COVID, probably a poor excuse. But I wanted to get back into it this year, and I'm keeping all my practice plans going forward so I can kind of see what worked and what didn't, and I can look back, next year. I'll have them all hopefully organized and put into a binder, and I don't know if I can notice anything from what went well and what didn't go good. Like, even as far as periodization goes, we went too hard at the beginning or we needed to go harder. Those are kind of the things that I'm kind of hoping I can maybe see a little bit of a trend from. So, and then just steal stuff too.
How about basic routine? Do you start noticing that it's structured a certain way? Let's say you have 15 minutes of beginning warm up. Do you go break, a series of breakdowns every day, a series of takedowns, and hard drilling? And are you starting to develop that?
In my wrestling, I really like to drill. So I like to have guys that, I want to have guys build that muscle memory, and we do a lot of drilling. We have our everyday drills. We probably have, anywhere between 10 and 12 what I would call everyday drills, and we probably do 7 or 8 of them every day, whether it's anywhere between 2 minutes and 5 minutes, and there's alternating, and I try to switch it up so it doesn't get totally monotonous, but there's things that are kind of basic skills that you have to be able to do to wrestle for Coach Lamar and myself, and just we do those things, and then we usually roll into some technique. We try to do rotate on some on our feet, some on the mat, and then we do some live at the end. But that can get kind of monotonous too. So another day, earlier in the week, we wrestled live before we did technique. So I like to switch it up. There's no hard and fast rule, but I'm just, like I said, mostly keeping it for records so I can see what went well and what we need to work on.
Okay. And then do you let the wrestlers always pick their partners, or do you start choosing partners for some of the guys?
Depends on the guy. If we know who needs to get a little push every day, then we'll tell them who they should probably go with. Or we have some really good assistant coaches in the room that can wrestle. We have Hunter Eckerts on our coaching staff this year. I wrestled with him in high school, and Matt Rader. Those guys can wrestle. So sometimes we might just say, "Oh, looks like you're going with so and so today," and it is what it is. And there's been no complaining so far, and that's good because you're going to get better when you're wrestling with some of those guys too. So,
Oh yeah, and your Lisbon specialty in there.
yep,
Which we don't have to mention yet, but that's pretty cool that he's been in there. Okay, Shawn, how about you? How about the same type of question? What do you guys do for your practice plans? Do you guys have it set up so you have something written down, or do you have a set techniques that you do and structure with your practices?
So I probably have about 10 years of practice plans all shoved in a binder, and probably the last 5 to 6 I've went away. I always normally have a pretty good idea off of notes and things from the past weekend, or but we do a lot of routine. We kind of break things up early season, mid season, late season, and then we have some non-negotiables in practice with how we start. And so we always do our warm-up, stretch announcements, things like that, and then we get up and it's a stance match right away. So we get a 2-minute just stance motion, everything. And if they're not doing the deal and checking their stance and being offensive and reaching with the wrong hand, is we do push-ups and we start the whole thing over again. And so you kind of we get it and get it right and just try to handle those positions. And then from there we go into a minute period each guy to where they're moving the other guy's got hands behind his back, so we're building that core strength in the legs for the guy that we're beating on. And also, getting our guys putting their hands on somebody, moving them, and just seeing how a body moves. From there, we do the same thing, a minute each guy, and then they just do setups and shots with no finishes to kind of get motion going. And then we hit another period, a minute each guy, to where, we're working defense a little bit. So, we have a guy giving good fakes. So we kind of switched it this year to where we're doing a little twofold stuff. So, we're hitting good body fakes, things like that. And then they're getting down blocks and getting sprawls. And so, from there, who knows what's going to happen in practice? We could take off and go anywhere, but that's a non-negotiable how we start practice for about the first 10 minutes. So
I like that. The non-negotiable, those are great terms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you got
that really rings true. That's a good one.
If you want to wrestle in our program, you got to learn to wrestle in positions rather than a whole bunch of techniques. And so it's kind of a little different take that I have on wrestling versus a lot of people.
You have to be you have to be able to do certain skills right. And I think some kids are able to make it up on the fly, but there's those simple skills that we'd probably agree on that win wrestling matches, and got to be able to do it right. So yeah,
definitely. I agree. Those skills are so clue. The clue to go, take it to the next level. It's that key of those guys that are marginal. Without those skills, they're not going to do it. They just can't as the season goes. So you build on that, definitely. Bill, let's go
with your eyes closed by the end of the year.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've got a couple takes on that, but one thing that I'm going to harken back to way back in the 1900s when we used to wrestle. Actually, I just thought of this.
Anymore, I gotta mute myself.
You talked about the Jamestown tournament coming up this weekend, and I brings me back to I wrestled in that the first time I wrestled there was in 1979. So I know that's you didn't study anything back that far back in history, Nate, but we used to wrestle back then. But at that time, Bucky Mon at NDSU had a big chart on the wall, and every day they started the day with this drill chart, and it was about half of it was a quarter of it was kind of individual on your feet, quarter of it was individual on the mat, and then the other half was with a partner on the feet and on the mat. And talk about, we'd get there and just, so that was at NSU. Well, of course, Lynn Forty did the same thing at Fargo South, because he thought, geez, this seems like it works pretty good. I can do every one of those drills today. I don't know what I ate for lunch, but I can do every one of those drills today. And I've always thought that, and I know it seemed monotonous to me at the time to all of us, but talk about muscle memory, right? It was really fantastic. So I think those, that drill and it wasn't hard drilling like, we will do a lot of time today, but one thing that when you're talking about the non-negotiables, and if I'm not coaching a high school room anymore, I'm coaching 60-pound kids but the one thing that I think is important that I'm seeing really a lot better of at the high school level, and those kids that are kind of green, And we're getting them to drill perfect double legs or single legs or high crotches, and as soon as someone sprawls, it's all over, right? It's just a battle. But I think if those kids learn how to hand fight and get in there and make someone uncomfortable, then it makes it a whole lot easier, to get those takedowns. So I'd be curious how much you guys spend on really the hand fight, kind of the stuff you saw at college, Nate, and I'm seeing it a lot better at the high school level, but I just think it's become really important.
Talk a lot about setups and how to get to certain attacks and how to clear certain ties. Like, I think, one thing that isn't talked about enough in high school wrestling, not giving any secrets, but everybody likes to go to a collar tie. So you better not let somebody pull on your head for 6 minutes straight. So you got to be able to get that collar tie off. So I work a lot with getting a collar tie off, whether it's to your own tie or just getting it off so they're not pulling on your head and you're coming out of your stance in the third period. I do a lot of that stuff, and then clearing ties, getting to your ties, that's all part of the hand fighting thing. And clearing underhooks, clearing Russian ties, you got to be able to get out of those positions too. So
yep, I did notice one thing. Some of the stuff that's been lost from a lot of teams is just some of the simple breakdowns. The whole series of breakdowns of, some people could chop and get the bottom wrist and do things like that, but going through the old ankle drives and the deep waist and spirals, and some coaches work through those, but I see a lot missing on top. And maybe we did more control wrestling and people do a lot more stuff on their feet nowadays. Any opinion on that?
I mean, I think we spend a ton of time on our feet. So, like Bill was talking about, our next progression out of that stuff normally is hand fighting and things like that. So we're working from there, and then like Nate said, ties, we work and try not to hang in a tie. I mean, we try to transition out of our ties pretty quick, but then, I'd say early season, we haven't spent a lot of time on top yet. So I think, we're going to progress into that a little bit more, whereas we've probably been 70 to 85% even on our feet so far at this beginning stages of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can't take anybody down, you can't control them on top.
Yeah, then you're going to have to start choosing top, which we don't like to have to do until later. Like third period in a state dual tournament or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So another quick take. Now we have early season. Now, how do you guys schedule your duels in South Dakota for preparing? Because you guys do a point system and you have a conference, you have several different ways. Explain to people how you guys set up your schedule for the year.
Yeah. So, as an A coach in South Dakota, and then also being in our ESD conference, I have very little say over our dual schedules. We have to wrestle every team in our conference. And so those are automatically our duels. And then, we host the East-West duels. So we'll get to dual Stevens and dual Central and dual Spearfish. And Sturgis. And so we get those 4 duels in, and quite frankly, I don't really know who else that we, need to see year in and year out once we hit our conference, once we hit those 4 West River schools.
How about a Harrisburg? How about a Harrisburg, a T?
Yeah, they're in our conference.
Oh, they're in your conference. Okay.
Harrisburg's in our conference. Brandon Valley's in our conference. Aberdeen, Mitchell, Huron, Watertown, Brookings.
I didn't realize your conference was that big. Okay.
Yeah, so our conference is 9 schools. So I mean, ultimately, we get 8 duels right there, and they really kind of frown on you doing triangulars. They try to keep them, singular duels. I think we have 1 try this year. I think it's Huron and Watertown. So, we kind of get locked in and don't get a bunch of duels, but ultimately we get the number of duels required to enter into the state duel tournament. And then, for the last couple of years, Bismarck high coaches and myself have been working on getting a duel. So, we get to get up there the Thursday night before the Rotary and get some duels in, with the Bismarck schools, and super excited about finally getting that one on the schedule.
Yes, that is on my list. In fact, I'm working on trying to get that televised with the PSP network. So
awesome, because I think it's going to be some boys and girls up there, and I mean it's going to be a pretty cool night of wrestling. So I know back in the day they used to do a Capital City Cup back and forth, and it sits in our library at the school. So I always look at it, and it's got Pierre on one side, Bismarck High on the other. And I'm like, man, if we could get something like that going, just imagine, especially for wrestling with what it's been over the last 10, 15 years with both towns, and it's just going to be awesome.
Okay, well, definitely. I'll talk to Beck too because I know they got a busy schedule, but I think that should be televised. It'd be great. Yeah. So, fire away, Nate. How about you? How did your schedule a little bit different? I know you usually set up your schedule during the Rotary. For the pretty much for the whole next season. Is your change in your schedule any different now? Because are you going back to the old schedule, going to Wyoming? You guys used to go to Montana. Tell us a little bit about your schedule this year at Century.
So we have to have our conference duels, obviously. Those are kind of scheduled between the conference coaches at the Rotary. And we try to keep the corresponding date unless you and the other coaches agree to, try to change it up. And we did that with Jamestown this year. We had that duel the Tuesday before Thanksgiving and decided to do away with that this year and move it to January when we have an open week. We used to have an open week. So we're going to have it that week. Both schools had a good football team this year, and just to try to get everybody down to weight and your football players, it's just a struggle in the second week of practice. So we're going to try to avoid that. Hopefully this works good and we can stick with it. But yeah, we're going back to Gillette. We really like that tournament. It's a dual tournament. It used to be 8 teams. This year there's going to be 11 or 12 teams. So we're going to get 9 matches in 2 days. I don't know. Everybody's going to get 9 matches. So I don't know any other places where you can do that. So we'll have a lot of matches in by the Rumble. And then we do the Metro Duels tournament. So we see some of those East schools in Fargo, and hopefully
that's the week after the
Rumble?
Rumble?
I think that's the week.
Week after the Rotary.
The Metro Duels is in it's in January.
It's after the Rotary.
I think it's the 3rd week in January. So we have that Rotary week, and then we have those 2 duels, which would normally be our off week, that 2nd week in January, and then the Metro Duels is the 3rd week in January. Then our date with Dickinson got moved somehow this year too. But other than that, it's kind of same old, same old. We used to be able to go to Montana too, that Miles City Cowboy tournament. Was a good tournament. I would compare it to I would put it up there with the Rotary. You run into all those billing schools, which was good to run into them because we wouldn't run into them anywhere else. Who else would we run into? Belgrade would be there. So you're seeing Iowa State, Jared Deegan, he would be at that tournament. And, a lot of smaller teams.
Forsyth was there. Yeah.
Forsyth was there. We used to see them at Gillette. Forsyth was there. Let's see who else. Holstrip always had 7 or 8 good wrestlers. So I would put it right up there with the Rotary. When you're getting to the quarterfinals and the semifinals, you'd have a dude, but we're only allowed to travel once out of state anymore. And we can go to a place like Aberdeen because the rule is you can travel once out of state, and then you can't travel any further than your longest drive essentially. So we can go to Aberdeen because it's within a reasonable amount of time and it's not that far, but we're not able to go to Miles City anymore because we choose to go to Gillette. So basically.
Okay. And any other restrictions? You guys have a certain amount of dates in Pierre. You guys, is it 16 or what is it for?
Yeah, you have 15 weigh-ins or whatever. And so I think actually we're technically over on our dates, but I just got to watch kids' weigh-ins and make sure that somebody skips a weigh-in here or there, which normally throughout a season with sickness and kids getting banged up and whatever, it's pretty easy. I mean, if you see somewhere you got a duel where, they don't necessarily have a guy, you just sit them out, don't weigh them in, and you get your weigh-ins. So you kind of manipulate the system a little bit to get a few more events and, just stay tacked to each kid's weigh-in and track it, and you're good to go.
Now, true or false, did track seed your state wrestling tournament last year?
True. Always has for the last, I think 4 years.
Okay, it has, because basically you can set up a system so you kind of do it. And so is there debate after it's done?
So you kind of get the criteria that.
Where are you going with this?
You get the criteria that comes out. And I mean, and you can always make arguments because it all really depends on the criteria. I mean, whatever tournament you go to, they set up criteria, and you can make an argument for a kid here or there. And then you get stuck in the whole 3-way of kids going round and round and chasing a tail. And it's you can't win. And so, it really depends on what side of the coin you're on. You want to argue, are you winning or are you losing? And, for the most part, you see the criteria, it gets sent out to the coaches, and then, each region has a representative that gets to be on the phone call when they go through it. And, if if you're even on seed points, because it does a whole seed point, and it gives a great justification. So, I mean, once you kind of see the justification and breakdowns, you understand it a little bit more. If you've never been on the phone call or seen the justification, people all over have arguments for here and there. And, sometimes it's only good as the data that it's given. So if somebody has some incorrect data, put into the system, well, those errors need corrected. And sometimes, you can make arguments here or there, but I think it's been a pretty good system. I really don't know. The whole random draw, you ended up with a 1 versus a 4 and drawing a region here and a region there. I definitely think it is a much improved system over the old way that we've done it. And, we've probably been on the good side of some of the errors, and we've been on the bad side of some of the errors. So
can you then in the opening round meet somebody from your region?
So that's been toyed with because of how many people that we've seeded. We had it before where you couldn't, and they tried to seed like all the way out to 10. And then they had the qualifier in there of if you were a region champ, then you had to be seeded in the top 8. And so we've kind of rescinded some of that. So yeah, you can see in the opening round somebody from your region, which isn't great, but if you're legitly an 8 and a 9, why not? Here we go.
Okay, there's a couple reasons why I'm heading this way, because North Dakota has got a few different rules in South Dakota. Now, how about one more question before I get to Nate on this? Is there a minimum amount of times that a person, or a maximum or a minimum amount of times a guy has to be at his lowest weight class? Can a guy drop down at regions?
No, so you can't do that at all. You have to have half your weigh-ins at that lowest weight class to which you're wrestling at. So, because we haven't done OPC, which is ultimately why we have that rule, and we paused off on OPC again. And so they're trying to get everything right before they, ultimately implement the system, and they're
10 years later.
Yeah, that's honestly the way that it feels. And it's like, all right, we did OPC when I was in college wrestling, and well, that was more than 15 years ago. So it's like, we'll get there. This system still seems a little old school for what we're doing, but it's worked. I haven't seen a whole lot of things. There are some special situations where if there was an injury on your team, you can apply for a waiver for a kid who, necessarily doesn't have half those weigh-ins down there. It's got to be a special circumstance. It's got to be approved by the Activities Association board. And I'm really not sure we've run into any of those yet. Mm-hmm. So, we have yet to see how that rule, kind of holds true.
Well, the reason I'm kind of leading to this is North Dakota doesn't have some of those rules. And we've had coaches after the seeds have even been made in the regions to change places where people go in the region at different weights.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in South Dakota. No, if anything, you see kids that go up and you're like, whoa, okay. But,
Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping that they frown against that in the near future and don't cause the headache between everybody else because they try to avoid somebody, or and that always makes me mad in wrestling, avoiding people. But so Nate, going on that same theme a little bit, where do you see us heading in hours? With what we're doing.
Well, last year got messed up because of COVID, but
everybody got to qualify.
Everybody got to qualify, which I don't know. It is what it was. What it was.
Think of that. They go into the state tournament. You have every Class A wrestler there, and so Bismarck High beat our century record. Because
I thought every Class A wrestler qualified anyway.
Almost, but what I'm saying is
shot right there.
yeah, that is.
Pipe down, Bill. Pipe down.
But I, not that it matters that much, but I want to put an asterisk on it as a century guy that had that record, that Bismarck got to have all these extra rounds of matches and they place farther and they have more weight classes, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were going to have there's always a big fight at the region seating meeting. John alluded to it. People are bumping weight classes even after we'd agreed we weren't going to do it. And I don't know. That was my first year as a coach, and I'm like, is this really happening? This is really happening right now? And
2 years ago,
I was getting elbows like, you just wait, it's going to happen. And that is kind of a gentleman's agreement, and it still happened. But it is what it is. I get it. Everybody wants to win, but then we kind of talked about how we're going to have a representative too for the West region, or a couple representatives for the West region and a couple representatives for the East region. I want to say it was 2 or 3, but that's 2 years ago now. And I kind of should know more, but have to get refreshed on it because we didn't even get to implement it last year. So, but I don't know.
So are they planning on letting track do it in North Dakota now this year? Because they haven't.
Well, we have the matrix or whatever, and then the coaches we sit there and sometimes, go back and forth a little bit. But the thing about the matrix is only, for what I've seen, for what we do for the WDA and for state, the matrix is only as good as what coaches put in for your seating criteria. So if somebody forgets seating criteria, well then, or doesn't put it in, it's only as good as that. And as a coach, you kind of have to be on top of that stuff. So, I mean, if you miss something or somebody catches something that you missed, that stuff all gets brought up. And there's no perfect way to do it. I don't mind sitting in a seating meeting if we get it right. I just, once you decide on something, you have to move on. Otherwise they get kind of long. And there was some back and forth last year, some scuttle at our state coaches meeting too, how people wanted to do what we did last year, which was go, I guess I try to put last year out of my mind because it was such a weird state tournament, but I think we did. How do we do that? We kind of ranked guys in a matrix, and then we went 8 versus. I think no. Do we do 4 versus? Do we do 4 versus 1 for the quarterfinals? 4 versus 1, 2 versus 3, and so on. And some people wanted to do 8 versus. Just do that, your 8 East Region qualifiers and your 8 West Region qualifiers, and go 8 versus 1, 2 versus 7, and so on for the whole state tournament bracket. I'm not a fan of that, and it didn't make it through advisory, but that was something that was brought up too. Because some people don't want to fight in the seating meeting for the state tournament, but in my eyes, it's for the kids, and you want to get it right. And kind of like Shawn said, in some instances in the seeds, you're gonna not get a good seed, but in other instances, you're gonna get a good seed, and it all even itself out. And nothing's gonna be 100% perfect, but I think you try to make it as perfect as you can. So I don't know.
Yeah, and for our state and region criteria, we actually, as coaches, have 0 to enter. It pulls all the stuff from the whole season, and does the thing that I've constantly been at is, okay, well, if we have that criteria, why can't periodically throughout the year they, run that criteria through the system and then show us kind of what those seeds look like?
Yeah.
It would be the state
rather than our ranking gods having to do their thing. You could be like,
which is way off.
There's
sometimes.
No argument. This is the system that's going to be for ranking at state. And so, you can kind of go that way. I talked about, Christmas and then after in January and then something seeing it, but
totally.
We're not there yet.
I just saw that. Actually, I watched the Flow podcast today, and they were talking about that. One of the guys, John Kozak, was arguing for that for the NCAA tournament. Like, they need to be transparent with the RPI, and maybe they should, kind of like they do for the college football playoff, let people know where everybody's going to be seated. So you don't see, there's been a lot of guys that are sitting out and not wrestling, or who knows why they're out, but it might give guys incentive to wrestle. But I kind of like that idea of knowing, too, like what you're saying, Shawn, of knowing where your guys are going to be at and things like that. But I don't know.
That makes complete sense.
You get what you can, I guess, and just go with it for seeding purposes.
So here's what's interesting.
Good system overall.
Yeah.
South Dakota has got 2 groups of people that do the A rankings and the B rankings, and they're kind of what are called between the people, the ranking gods. and sometimes they're really good, and then other times I'm surprised how much time it is. When I do a ranking by myself, it takes a long time to do. But I'm not right. I try to do the best I can. But if I had a button I could push over on track and go, "Hey, give me this," I would do it right now. And in North Dakota, we've had a couple different people. We've had a guy by the name Andy Wrestle, who I know who's taking care of it now. It's not the old guy, but he spends a ton of time. And we both just happened to bring out the B rankings yesterday. I didn't look at his because I didn't even want to compare between the two. And supposedly they're quite different, which is good. But what I would like is us to get together to have a main format so they know that it's just from one place. But in Class A in North Dakota, I've done them, but then so has the coaches do a poll. So there's a coaches poll that comes out, and they get guys in weights where coaches bring in all the information basically and rank their region and then go from there. So it's a little bit different. South Dakota doesn't do a coaches pool, do they?
No coaches pool, but you're right. There's two different kind of groups that do them, and I'm just kind of savvy enough behind the scenes. I know who a few of them are.
Yeah.
You get one group who's really tech savvy and they use track wrestling like crazy, and you get the other group who is, I mean, most people wouldn't even believe me if I were to tell them, but they're so old school. It's pencil paper, it's youth brackets all the way back to, into the 70s, and it's everything. And there's some brackets in some basements that you'd be surprised that they still have in there at every youth tournament, trying to get 106 right for the next year. And they've got results for every tournament because they've got a guy that they send there and he handwrites all the brackets, and it's
I get on the phone with the one guy that he has a flip phone yet, and I said, can I give you a digital version of the Dakota Grappler? And he laughed at me. No, but he sends letters out to people, and he will then call and talk to every coach and find out, and guess what? He does. It's insane on some of the names he can pull out of the hat. And I'm going, wow.
Absolutely. And they have a system, and they stick to their system, and some people just get absolutely butthurt.
It's irate. Yeah.
It is what it is.
And there's
the biggest thing about rankings is the ones at the beginning of the year. I mean, you have to do them because you want to give kids the spotlight. I mean, they work hard, and then send it to work hard. But I mean, you can't take a lot of stock into anything, I don't think, until after Christmas. I really don't think so.
No, I tell you what, I spent about 2 hours, honestly, just looking at 94-pound weight class in freestyle last year, 97-pound weight class in the 14 and under. I was looking at all these, trying to find out in Class B who any of the 106-pounders are going to be this year, because I swear everybody in Class B got on steroids or basically drank a ton of milk, because all our 6-pounders are like 45-pounders this year, or 26 at least. And then so there was like nobody returning at 6. And then if all of a sudden I missed one, Lisbon, who has a returning state placer at 6, back at 6, and I didn't even put him in the rankings at all. I'm going, oh man, how did I miss that? So I have to apologize. There's Lisbon people out there watching, and they know. But I'm going to do something for you guys, actually, that I'm just for the fans out there. This Sunday, something new. I'm doing a live show just on Facebook, and I call it the rankings class. And I'm going to bring out stuff so you guys can see how I rank things. And I'll bring out the spreadsheet, and we're going to I'll bring out the weekend's results, and we can together, the fans out there, rank the Class B if you want to. And I've got several people that have responded back that they're hoping they have time because they want to just pop in and check out some stuff and give some stuff that they've seen. Because I can't be at every wrestling tournament. I've got a boy that wrestles, and I'll be busy watching the Mandan tournament, the Lions. And so I'll be looking at results Saturday night and through Sunday until Sunday evening, 8:00, organizing, and I'll put the spreadsheets together, and you guys will get to see some of that stuff in action if you want to. So something new, giving it a shot. And if it works out, it works out. If not, then I can always punt it. Give it a shot. I didn't even ask Bill if he wanted to help. He'd probably just show up and give me a hard time. So
I'm getting ready.
Busy. Yep. But Bill, I don't know if Bill's becoming an expert at rankings. Let's just keep it at that.
No.
Well,
Bill's
beginning.
Beginning. That's right.
Well, I don't know if you want to tell people or not.
Oh, I guess it's probably my name's on it. I guess if anybody sees it, but I'm doing the NCAA Division II rankings for Flow Wrestling this year. So, we've had one ranking come out, got another one ready to go out. But it's this time of year, it's tough. Most guys had very few matches last year, so you're really just almost going off in the national tournament, and then the next thing half the guys haven't wrestled yet. So,
can you give us an honest number of hours you spent?
No, I can't give you that in public because I have a full-time job. So no, it's quite a few though. I mean, and not that it's maybe twice as many hours as I would normally spend looking at those results anyway. I mean, I've always looked at them, but yeah, it's interesting when you start going through and trying to figure out how long. 12-pack for you, Justin. They're
of Red Bull.
You start looking at the what these teams have done or haven't done yet, or guys that are ranked or returning, and some of them I know are trying to get down in descent plans, getting down to weight, and then some of them are heavyweights, and they're our top 2 ranked heavyweights in the country neither one of them have wrestled a match yet. So I hope that changes shortly.
So what are you finding like their certification weights, and what are you doing for that for your college?
Well, luckily, obviously, Flow Wrestling owns track now, so there is some behind the scenes availability to see some of those OPC plans, but for the most part, I know, and I've reached out to some coaches around the country to find out where guys are going to end up. Luckily we have seen a lot of them at least wrestle one match, but like I said, at heavyweight, we got the top 2 ranked guys in the country, top 2 national champs the last 2 years. Neither one has wrestled a match yet. So we kind of look for that to hopefully get better. Some guys have been out in the streets a lot, right? Mary's wrestled quite a bit. That's nice to see. They're going to, they'll be back on the road again this week, wrestling Concordia tomorrow in Frazee. Kind of a fun duel that we talked about, having some of these duels in other locations. And then I assume they're probably take the whole team and go to the Dragon Open. I don't know for sure what they're doing, but that, so it's kind of fun the guys that have been wrestling a lot of places, it's kind of fun to see, but we're going to get into a real kind of dual season shortly, and then those things will all shake out.
How about Nate? Have you talked to Aho about how the schedule and stuff's going?
I guess I haven't talked to him much. I just emailed him before I came on the show tonight. Good luck. I said, have fun. I wish I could have wrestled in something like that, because that would have got me fired up. I know, things like that motivated me, like, wrestling in my coach's hometown. And I know how big of a wrestling town Frazee is. And yeah, I just wish him good luck. And I do know that they're not going to national duels this year. Instead, they're going to a tournament I think it's a dual tournament in Colorado. And I think they'll wrestle like Adams State and Western Colorado. And I don't know if it was Colorado Mines or Colorado Mesa, or I don't know who's all going to be there.
Adams State, Pueblo.
Yeah. Good teams.
And Western Colorado and New Mexico Highlands.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Some of those teams we would see down in Kearney or at the Midwest Classic, but yeah, they're fun. And it's always fun to go to a different place too. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know, Bill, let's have you start talking. One of the biggest things, I know we talked some high school, but I just want to touch on one big college thing. Okay. The portal open movement of one wrestler. Okay. National champion from 2019. It's been all over Flow. Give us
Nick Suriano.
Yep. You give us a take.
Drama.
because when I watched his video and I could see him being one of these guys that plays out as much drama as you want. Like you say, play this out to the tilt and sell T-shirts while doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick is Nick's been a promoter of himself for a long time, as well as his whole family, and it seems like it's gone on for a really, really long time. But Nick's only wrestled 2 years in college, so he's still got 2 years left. And it will be very interesting. I think if he does end up at 125 pounds, I really, I'll sign up for that match. I want to see, Nick and Spencer Lee wrestle. I think the one thing that's very interesting, and I think if those two guys, I'm just going to say that I do not believe they'll wrestle at Big Tens. I think that's one of those matches. I think somebody gets to the finals, and I don't know which one, but one of them is not wrestling. So they may be the two that wrestle in the national finals, but I think that's the only time we're going to get to see it. I don't think we're going to get another shot. But I'd like to watch him wrestle. I feel like I'd like to watch him wrestle a lot of times, but I felt that way about Nick Suriano and Dayton Fix, and I would just as soon never see them wrestle each other again, because they can't take each other down. And So it's exciting that he's ended up at the University of Michigan, which Michigan must have 625 pounders.
If he wouldn't have got COVID, do you think he'd have made the Olympic team?
Well, I guess at the time that it was happened, and I thought he had a really good chance. But I don't know the way that Gilman was wrestling. I'm not 100% sure he could have beat him.
He beat that Azerbaijani that
right.
Gilman barely lost to. That's what everybody was going off of. But then you saw Suriano wrestle 61 later on this summer, and Nick Suriano I don't think would have beat Gilman. Do you agree?
Right. I agree. Yep, I agree. And even the match that Gilman lost, I think that was in Italy, if I remember right. That was a mental lapse. Never should have lost. I mean, we've seen him do it a lot of times, unfortunately, and maybe he's gotten over that type of loss. But we've seen him, kind of lose those late. Being really pushing too hard at the end of a match when you probably didn't have to, and putting himself in a bad position. But with what I saw out of Gilman at the trials, obviously at the Olympics and then at the World Championships, I think Gilman beat Suriano there.
He was on a mission for sure. I mean, he's however many seconds away from an Olympic gold medal.
Yep. Yeah. So it's so that's exciting, and it's going to be exciting for the second semester. I don't think we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see Suriano wrestle a lot of matches. Apparently, we're not going to see Spencer Lee wrestle a lot of matches. So
Gable Stevenson either. Yeah.
Well, I think Gable will wrestle quite a bit. They're not going to Cliff Keen, but from what Eggum said, I mean, there's a few guys going, but what he had said was there was some issues with some contact tracing that they are, probably don't want to put themselves in a position where they, they were being kind of careful. But I think Gable, you're not going to see Gable miss a duel. So, and he'll, I assume, I guess I don't remember the schedule. I kind of would think Minnesota's going to the scuffle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'll be, Mason Paris hasn't wrestled. That might be a second semester deal too. So, sure it'd be nice to see all these guys wrestle more, obviously. But there's been some great matches so far, some excitement happening. Oregon State had a kind of a wild weekend trying to get to Iowa to wrestle in a duel. Couldn't get out of Corvallis. So, Army picked up a duel against the Hawkeyes. That's kind of cool. You're not going to see a lot of teams sign up for that. And they did, but
duty calls.
Yep, that's right. Hey, it sounded like Cal Baptist would have done the same thing. So they were in the state; they would have done it too. This week we do have the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones wrestle, so there'll be a few good matchups in there. I guess we go back to the 125-pound weight class. I kind of think Drew Hildebrandt's going to end up at Penn State, so it'll be pretty wild. Be a pretty good team race, I think. I think Michigan is going to, they've kind of going to put themselves in the mix. I don't know what their lineup will look like for sure. If Taylor Massa will still have a chance to show up and see how that goes. And obviously the D1s are in Detroit. So
I've got the Big Ten schedule by my desk at school. Just right big one. The Big Ten Network wrestling duels. There's going to be some great ones. I look forward to a lot of those. So if you guys have a chance, you've got the Big Ten Network. There's going to be some great matches in the very near future.
Well, I would say this weekend is going to be a great tournament. Not that there isn't enough wrestling to watch already with the high school tournaments in North Dakota and probably all over South Dakota. But CKLV, which is really one of the biggest tournaments of the year, is going to be going on in Las Vegas, and going to have a short gopher team there, but overall it's going to be pretty good. You got Princeton, you got Cornell, you got Ohio State, Michigan,
SDSU's going down there.
SDSU's going down there. Tanner Cook will be in the bracket at 165. He's a Humann highlight reel. It'll be great. It'll be a lot of really good wrestling. It's streamed live on
this year.
What's that?
NDSU is not going this year?
NDSU is not going this year. They're dueling Augustana, maybe Friday, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And
at 157, Franek would have had some really, he'd had an opportunity to improve his national ranking quite a bit. Just sorry to get off track, but
no, you're perfect.
Right.
That's good.
No, you're exactly right.
I like all that.
Let's see, at 57, who's all going to be there? You'll have
Brayton Lee, Quincy Monday,
Ryan Deacon, Peyton Robb. Obviously, put himself on everybody's radar. Could be a guy that could make the top of the podium. Kendall Coleman from Purdue. Him and Franek have had some really good matches in the past.
6 or 8 guys.
Yeah, Will Luan is a guy that kind of gave Franek fits at the junior level in Fargo. Justin Thomas from Oklahoma is really good. Jacob Wright from Wyoming, tough. So, yeah, good. 165, I think, will be fire. Evan Wick, Shane Griffith, Carson Karchla from Ohio State, Cam Amin, Tanner Cook, like I said, from South Dakota State. So, yeah, a lot of good guys there. It's a great tournament. Always is a great tournament. It's going to be no different than normal, I guess. It'll be kind of fun. Like I said, be live on Flow, so something to watch.
The juicy thing was there too. Another kind of thing that you listen to that podcast religiously too, Bill, is Vito Arujau isn't going to wrestle 133. He's not going, so a lot of people think that he's on his way down to 125. So
yeah, that was kind of my thought when I first saw it. Is I figured it's probably gives a chance, gives him a chance to take a little time to make a descent down there. And I had not heard. I did hear on the podcast, but I hadn't heard before that he'd weighed in a little bit light against Stanford last week. So, in a couple of weeks we got those. I guess we could call them national duels, right? Rockfin duels that'll be going on. That'll be really, really fun too. Pretty exciting.
John, do you know about that concept? Have you guys talked about that? You guys know about that concept there?
Yeah, we have not talked about it on the show.
We haven't talked about it.
I really haven't talked to John about this at all. But yeah, Rockfin, it's a dual tournament, I guess you would say, right?
That
dual
they're
event
televising
of some sort.
on Rockfin.
And it'll be streamed live on Rockfin. And really kind of the cool part about it is from the team aspect is the teams are benefiting financially from the Rockfin pod, from the broadcasting, right? And so these guys, these teams will actually get paid out for probably 5 years, right? So you figure that say they do that year one, and then they do it year two, and they do the same thing. So it gives the teams a chance to, earn some more money towards, for the team, whether they use it for the RTCs or they use it for whatever, the arms race.
They had
continuing.
They had Martin Floriani, who started Flow Wrestling, but now he's in charge of Rockfin. But he was on that Bashermania podcast is really good too. It is, yeah. Podcast, but he explained like the payout and all that stuff too. So if you want to listen to a good podcast, that Bashermania episode was pretty good. It was really interesting. So it
was a great episode.
And then they are kind of going to set it up so like the Iowas and the Penn States wouldn't meet up. I didn't quite understand that part, but you're not going to have anybody in your conference in your pool, I believe, and they're going to try to separate teams to a certain extent. I guess I didn't quite understand how that quite is all going to work out, but
yeah, and that could change, I suppose, as years go by, right? I mean, but yeah. I think year one, it kind of got everybody to come and not have to worry. Yeah. So the guys that didn't really want to have a national dual tournament, that have stayed out of it, maybe a year or two down the road, they start seeing this is, we could actually play this all the way down to one versus two, and we got Michigan versus Penn State in the finals, or whatever.
I think it would be. I look back at some of those old videos. I think it'd be cool if they could get all the national duels back at one site, and maybe Rockfin could do that too, for the smaller programs to get them, some streaming service money too. And then that's a huge wrestling tournament for all those people to be able to rub elbows with each other. You could make it a pretty cool thing and have it at a huge arena, but I don't know.
I agree. I think that they'll see how this works, and that, will be, very possible that's how we see it go in the future. So
wrestling can grow. The additional money is going to change things, and I tell you what, it's going to allow some borderline person who couldn't have done it before, because now they got a few bucks, they can afford it. It's going to be interesting.
I don't know, John, if you saw that or not, but so Justin Bash it does the Bashmania podcast, and it's a great podcast. So
I have seen it. I have not listened to it yet.
So most of the time that podcast is Justin Bash and Vincenzo Joseph, which is awesome. They do a great job. It's really fun. But so Justin Bash has a marketing company, and he has signed NILs with a handful of athletes, right? Bashmania, but one of them was Peyton Prussian, who was that girl from NIL gal that won the national championship. And her parents are sitting right next to us while we were broadcasting, John. If you remember her, she was came by, gave me knuckles there.
Yeah, I remember.
So they signed an NIL deal with her, so that was kind of fun. She was exciting.
Really?
Yeah, great. I was really happy to see that, So, but yeah, that was good. It was fun.
Okay.
It was fun.
Well, I had one more big question. Oh, I wanted to mention next week what's happening, and then I want to ask some last things because we had a good question from York up here, and for both you guys, let's do that, and then I'll bring up what we're doing next week. So, Nate and Shawn, opening day lineups, kind of what are they looking for? Why don't you just kind of go through what the lineup's looking for you, Nate, for Mandan? These guys wouldn't mind knowing. Give your wrestlers some recognition.
I'm going to keep everybody in secrecy because anybody else would do that. It is to be determined tomorrow night. Sorry, guys. You will see tomorrow. I am too competitive to tell that right now. If it were later in December, you would know. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to spill the beans tonight.
Well, how about this? Just mention. Don't have to mention what weights. Tell us about some of the guys in your wrestling team then that you're really looking forward to watch this year. Nate.
Okay, putting me on the spot a little bit. I'm looking forward to see.
You don't have to mention them all, but let's mention some of the really young ones coming up and a couple. Give those guys some recognition. We know the returning state placer, somebody that's not a returning state placer, because I'm going to talk about a lot.
A kid like Braden Morris lifted a lot of weights with me over the summer, and he did a lot of wrestling. He's grown up quite a bit. He's going to be a 126 pounder. I'm looking forward to seeing how.
You gave him his weight. You gave his weight up.
Yeah, I did him, but everybody kind of knows that. But it's more of the other gamesmanship and some other spots that I'm not going to give away.
That's fine.
And Dakota's been doing a lot of wrestling. I think most people kind of know about him. Brody Furterer, wrestling tough. He's doing good. Cole Rudens is of the he wrestled this summer at Fargo. Then I think some people might have seen him wrestle. He was just an 8th grader last year, but Ole Taylor is going to be a freshman, and I think he's got a lot of talent. He's in the 170 range for us, and yeah, I'm just excited to see. Like I said, we got a lot of young guys, and a lot of, I would say, inexperience, but they've gotten a lot of matches. But just the varsity experience is what they're missing in kind of those high leverage situations. So hopefully it all goes good. But yeah, that's probably a pretty lame answer, but I don't want to.
No, that's fine, Nate. I like that you did that though.
Yeah.
Okay. How about Shawn? You don't have to give up a lot of stuff either, but just mention a couple of guys you're looking forward to see wrestle this year.
I guess our twins, I'm going to talk probably more our seniors. Nate and Noah Williams, the set of twins that we've got. I'm excited to see them wrestle, in their senior year. They didn't have their junior years end like they wanted to, with a not super state tournament, but they showed up for us in the duels big time. So I'm just excited to see what they can put on right away. And then another senior, Blake Judson. He's always tough as nails and fun to watch with a motor that just never stops. So excited to see him. And then, we got a few other seniors in our lineup. Jay Sharon has been stuck behind Preston Taylor forever. Preston was like a 3-year guy that was a staple for us at heavyweight. So him, that kind of rounds out our seniors that'll be in our lineup. So if I left off a senior that you guys may want to know about, it's because they won't be wrestling early, but excited to see our seniors kind of, how they lead and go from there. We got a ton of young guys as we talked off camera, and probably too many to name they got to make names for themselves before they get mentioned yet.
Tell me about the progress now. You helped out with the girls team a lot, and you do have somebody else. Why don't you make a quick statement on the progress on your girls? Because they're coming to Bismarck or to the Mandan Lions, which is Wrestle at Legacy, which you guys can go see.
Yeah, so the crazy part with our girls is we started the program last year and had like 26 girls show up. So we were running practice in the morning, practice in the afternoon, and just absolutely running ourselves raw. And our school did the right thing, and they said, we got that many girls, we're gonna support. So they now have their own head and assistant coach. And in the process, they took my guys, they took my 2 assistants that had been with me for a really long time, and Matt Thorson and Travis Heasley, and those guys switched over to the girls. And so I don't know if they were trying to get rid of me or what they were doing, but in the process, I ended up getting my own guys back. I ended up getting Jevin Keys to come back, and he's an assistant coach for me. And then at Christmas time, I'm going to get Eric Williams, as he'll graduate from SDSU, so I'll get him back. So I lose my guys, but I also get my guys that I've coached, and so they understand the process and the room. So, our girls, I think now, we only had sophomores and younger last year. We didn't have any juniors or seniors go out. So now we have, juniors and younger. And I think there's 27 of them. We lost a few, we gained a few. We gained some really good soccer girls into the program. And so, I don't know if they're going to have all 14 weight classes filled up in Bismarck, but I think they're going to have 13 of them filled. And so, that's going to be exciting. And so they got, juniors down to 7th graders. And, some of the crazy part is some of our younger girls got a little bit more experience than some of our older girls, but the older girls got that last year of experience. And, every girl we took to the state tournament, not one of them finished, outside the top 3. So
you're going to do some damage in Bismarck this weekend.
Yeah. We taught them how to wrestle in positions. What can I say? They had other girls that are shooting like crazy, and we're just holding position and beating them with it. So no, it was fun. I'm excited to see what, those coaches can do year 2. And I just wish we were at the same venue. I wish we had the shot to where we could be at the same venue. My daughter's a 7th grader, and she's going to get to wrestle her first varsity matches, and Dad's going to get to be across the river. So,
well,
it is what it is.
Are one of your coaches a talker? Because I wouldn't mind connecting with them and do a live quick feed, because I'm going to be going live at times at the Mandan lines, and I could feed them in like this, and they could have their phone or whatever. Do you think anyone wouldn't mind doing that?
Yeah. You can talk to Travis Heasley. He's a talker,
okay.
But
okay.
Matt Thorson's the head coach. He's a little bit more bashful.
Okay.
Maybe a little easier on the eyes. You might improve your female viewers if you go ahead and get Matt on.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, that wouldn't hurt. Yeah. Okay. Nate, now you know the numbers of the girls team at Century, but you don't have any involvement. Tell how Century, and who's kind of is Jared actually kind of the assistant that is going to take care of the girls for Century, or what is happening? Do you know that?
I don't really have any idea. I couldn't even tell you how many girls are out. I got enough on my plate just trying to deal with our boys team. I've kind of, I know there's a good amount of girls out, and women's wrestling is really important. I love watching it, and if I was coaching, I'd be all aboard, and I'd be coaching just as hard as I would be coaching my boys. But I haven't gotten myself that deep into it, because when I put myself into something, I'm full steam ahead with my guys, and that's just other stuff I have to worry about. And I just haven't got that far yet. So
okay, well, no, I just honestly, I didn't know if you knew if they kind of keep you in the loop or whatever, but
no, not really. So
okay, well, I'll make sure I get a hold of Jared, and of course we talked to the head coach for the whole thing last week, of course, Scotty Nolan. So, but here's one more thing I wanted to make an update for people that are watching tonight. Next week I've got SDSU's head coach coming on, Damian Hahn, and supposedly he's a talker, so we'll have him. And I've still got a couple up in the air that are pending, so we might have a second guest that's also a Division I wrestling coach. We'll see. But Bill, because we're already past this hour time, I didn't want to go much longer. Any questions on your side, and then we'll kind of round it up.
No, I don't have any more questions. We probably should just throw out there that Northern State's making the trip to Minot for a duel on Friday night. So I guess I'm planning on being up there for that. So that'll be that. And I'm sure Minot's probably going to the Dragon Open. They've been out in the streets wrestling quite a bit too. Kind of seems like everybody goes to everything. So, Coach Forty's really got them going. So it'll be fun to see that duel that night. And that's kind of what we're doing there. And then the Class B guys, Carrington and a lot of other teams obviously are going to end up in Velva this weekend. So we'll be following what ends up there. You see some class, some Region 2, Region 3, probably some Region 4 teams. I don't know. Napoleon used to go.
Yep.
But I'm
Napoleon,
not sure. I think
third.
Yeah. So it'd
Yep.
be probably teams there from every region. So you get quite a few matches. That's now a 2-day tournament. So they kind of has pool play on Friday and Saturday. Then they end up into some brackets. So they get a bunch of matches. So that'll be happening.
Okay.
I'm not going to go to Velva. I may make it down to Jamestown, try to catch some of that wrestling down there. So.
Okay. Yeah. Some of the update for people out there for tournaments. Of course, we got the Napoleon Early Bird on Saturday in Napoleon. Then we have, I know that some teams are going to the Sydney tournament. I think maybe Williston, some things like that. Then we also have, I can't forget, we get the Dan Unruh tournament in Wahpeton is also going on this weekend. We also have the Hillsborough Invitational tournament. And I think that might be about it. And Jamestown that we already mentioned in the Lions. So those are the main ones. I know there's a ton in South Dakota. I'd have to bring up my list, but guess what? I'll put a list on Dakota Grappler just if you guys want to see, and I'll make sure I have a scoreboard up on the message board. The message board is getting busier and busier. Man, I still want to apologize for guys that go out and try to find that old board. That old board had a lot of great conversations. I still haven't got it. It got hacked, but I still had access to it. And then when the server crashed, because actually the guy who was running my site, I think he passed away, actually. There was a private guy that was running it. And out of the blue, his server is just rogue. And so I had to figure out exactly how to get my stuff. And I requested from the service provider to download my information from that old message board. And supposedly they're going to be getting it to me on a flash drive. Then I have to figure out how to reload it. But I still haven't received it. So I'm praying that 20 years or 15 years of information that was on that message board I could get back, because there's so much content. So anybody that hears this, I got a few things on the message board that people are going, why isn't it out there? That was so great. And I said, yeah, it's different, but it's hopefully different is good too. And Shawn, any last words out of you before we take it? It's been over an hour.
No, I'm just looking forward to Mandan. One of my favorite things about getting up there is getting to see Coach Dixon from Turtle Mountain. So shout out to him. Can't wait to connect with him again this weekend. One of my favorite people.
Well, he retired. Oh no.
Oh no. I hope he still shows up.
Okay. Maybe they could talk him into driving the bus for the weekend. I don't know, but so they do have a brand new coach.
I didn't know that. That's sad for me. I'm gonna have to text him, see if he'll show up anyway.
He's a super great guy. He's one of my favorites, definitely. Yeah. And so I wish you the best of luck. Have a safe trip. In fact, I believe we should keep at least a decent amount of weather so you don't get a ton of snow on the way up. It's always some different things. And Nate, any last words?
No, just looking forward to our first competition tomorrow night. Should be exciting. Hopefully we can put our best foot forward and then have a good weekend and roll right into next week.
Well, awesome, guys. I don't have to go through the quick questions. You guys have already done those before, but I actually made 6 new ones for us next time we have somebody out there. So you guys have a great night. Dakota Grappler Live. You guys want to catch something, you can always find it over on dakotagrappler.com. I'm putting up videos, rankings, you name it, more and more stuff. I've got the goal thing written actually on my mirror that I'm going to make posts every day for this whole month. And so far, and I did every weekday of the month last month, and it's really taken off. So guys, you guys have a good luck. Lots of good lucks from people out there that are putting out on the board. I'm glad everybody came and watched. Guess what? We have a lot more of these every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, Dakota Grappler Live. You guys have a great night. Take care.